So continuing our series on the Latvian gambit decline, we're going to look at another example of one here. There are so many ways of doing this. So without further ado, we'll turn on our engine and see what happens here in another highly rated game. This is the most common way that people decline this gambit, and I think they're trying to turn this into some sort of Schliemann, which is also beneficial to know. So now the computer is saying that I need to move bishop to b4 to pin that knight. And I found that I can move knight to f6 as well. So either case, now it says that's slightly inaccurate because knight to d5 is strong for white, but now the analysis goes back to where it was, so it's hard to really say. Now he takes, and it says d5 is the right move. And in my experience, I find it hard to defend the d5 pawn. After I recover the f pawn, he can pin my knight on g5, and there are a variety of things that I have trouble with in that variation that I don't like. So in this, usually I just pin, and then I leave it up to black to prove I'm wrong. In this case, I played a fairly conservative move, d6. As I said, I had trouble defending the d5 pawn in the past, so I was experimenting with this. I have played d5 many times. Now it's obvious he's going to try to castle long, and I just take, and this gives him an opportunity, of course, to do a variety of things. But mostly I'm showing you this game because this is a good example of what I was talking about before. One of the last points that you can be prepared to castle long or short. Well, be prepared also, to castle that for white to castle long or short and to have to attack a queenside position. I think castling short in the Latvian is the right move almost always, simply because you have that good development of the rook on f8. So it says he should kick. Instead, he's doing strange things with his knight here. He's repositioning it to e4, which I'm allowing him to do with tempo. And now I'm beginning to take over this game somewhat. As you see, all of the pieces here are very active. He's got a real problem with his bishop on f1, and I'm about to start attacking on the queen side. So he has limited opportunity to react to that move. And now strangely, I'm not playing any of the computer's #1 moves here. Computer's saying that white should be protecting with f3 and preparing to move his queen out. And instead he takes, and once again the computer wants me to play queen takes f6, and I take with the rook instead, which is kind of like folly in a way, because with the queen at least I get to reposition the queen to a better position. With the rook, it's just going to go back pretty much. So because he's going to move d5 in response to this no matter what. So I get the check, and he takes. Now I move rook to f7, which it says was correct. Now he's supposed to move knight to e3 and try to get rid of my strong bishop. And instead he moves f3. And as you can see, that's the beginning of the end, depending on how I react. However, I don't play the sharpest move. Sharpest move would be to play bishop to e6 and attack that knight, and capitalize on the fact that after I take his a pawn in certain scenarios, he can't really trap it very easily because I got that pawn out there on e5 that can be pushed. So I play c6, which is only marginally worse than bishop. So see, he's going to go there anyway. So that turned my c6 into a little bit of a lost move. And of course, what's interesting here is he doesn't like the retreat of my bishop that much. Well, I guess he started to come around some. Now he won't. He said c3 should have chased my knight out of there. Now I'm going to start expanding on the queen side, and these are all pretty much #1 moves, and he thinks somehow he's going to attack on the king side, and I don't know how he's going to do it. But now in this particular formation, I'm building up to an eventual knight to b5 to c6 type attack with some sort of pressure along the b file from a queen or a rook or something, and he does his best to deal with this. The computer already sees this is going to happen, so he wants to go king to a1. So that knight is, as soon as we protect the e pawn, we can kick him out of there. wants me to move the rook, says my queen move is inaccurate. But once again, I'm up one in all these situations. C3 is a very, very computer-like tactical defense, so I don't see humans doing a lot of that. So now he's putting some pressure on my b6 square indirectly, and also on my e5 square, making it hard for me to kick his knight. So I decide to cover my e square, my e5 pawn, and just in doing it that way, I am taking an attacker away from the a file, but the computer now decides that that's a good thing. So finally he gets his bishop out, where it just becomes bait. Now he's overloaded his queen, and the bishop's got no place to go. It might have stood better on f1. So now we kick the knight. He moves back. Now the computer wants me immediately to push the a pawn and open up a whole world over there. I just move my knight. And once again, as you see, the computer doesn't come up with the move that I play. However, he comes around to the same evaluation or greater. It says almost king to a1's forced now. And so now this is an interesting kind of defense. I think it's of the c3 square. And he sees the check coming. And I moved my queen instead of my rook, and this, it says, was one of the weakest moves of the game that I made. So, I'm not perfect. So rook on d to e1, okay, is what it wants. Instead, he attacks the a pawn, and now it becomes more obvious why leaving my queen there was better, is because now the a pawn needs to be covered. And it's suggesting queen to a8 to do it, but I just moved the rook back. So now we'll see how long it takes him to start his giant kingside attack, and once again, there's no kingside attack. Whatever he pushes isn't going anywhere, so a4 is almost automatic. Now he's about down 3, and now he's going to get a series of things happening. Notice no checks. See, he wants a3. The reason why is because I believe he sees it as stronger not to win the exchange. So checking with the knight and winning the exchange is not that big a deal to the computer. See, it says move king in the corner, don't open it up. So as soon as it gets opened, he goes down an additional pawn or two. It says knight to b3 is forced, and now the end of the game is near. So he takes the pawn. And now there's probably a variety of things that I'm going to miss here, but I did play rook takes just on sheer instinct. That move is going to run into a big mess for black. Now it says I should move rook to b7, which is interesting. So my approach to it was not as exact at all. So now I have a mate simply by taking the pawn, a mate in 6. Instead I take the rook, and I delay things needlessly. And he played it out, so that's the end of the game. It was a blitz game, so you play those things out when people are short on time. And that's the end of my Latvian Gambit declined.